History has demonstrated that symbols are more than just visuals. They carry power, meaning, and influence. And no one understood this more than the Nazi Party. They did not simply take or use symbols, they weaponized them. Among them, one stuck out the most, the swastika, an old emblem of good fortune turned into a banner of fear and control. Here is every Nazi symbol explained by a German. Swastika. It is rarely known that the swastika is an ancient symbol that has been used for thousands of years in numerous civilizations, most notably in Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism, to represent peace, wealth, and fortune. The term swastika in its originality comes from Sanskrit, which means conducive to well-being or auspicious. The symbol was widely used in ancient India, China, and early European cultures such as Greek and Norse before being immortalized by the infamous Nazis. Several Western groups and movements embraced the swastika in the early 20th century. However, the Nazi Party in Germany permanently altered its connotation. The swastika was chosen as the Nazi ideology's insignia by Adolf Hitler, who modified it into a black inverted form on a white circle with a red backdrop. This version became a symbol of Aryan superiority, Nazism, and the horrors of World War II. The original swastika is typically upright and can face left or right. It frequently appears with dots or other decorations. The Nazi swastika is slanted at a 45-degree angle, which gives it an aggressive aspect. The Nazis' primary emblem was the swastika, which the newly formed Nazi Party officially adopted in 1920. The party's formal emblem was the party adler, an eagle perched on a swastika. The black-white-red design is based on the colors of the German Empire's flag. Following the fall of the German Empire, this color scheme became popular among anti-Weimar German nationalists. The Nazis condemned the Weimar Republic's black-red-gold flag, which is still used today in Germany. SS Armen and Runes. From the 1920s to 1945, the Schutzstaffel's esoteric emblems, or SS runes, were used on Schutzstaffel SS flags, uniforms, and other artifacts to represent different parts of Nazi philosophy and Germanic mysticism. They also reflected virtues deemed desirable among SS members and were inspired by Völkisch mystic Guido von List's pseudo-runic Armen runes, which were loosely based on historical runic alphabets. The Sig rune, or Sigrun, represented triumph or Sieg in German. The rune that inspired the Sieg rune translates as sun, but von List read it as a victory symbol in his collection of Armen runes. It was developed into the SS symbol in 1933 by Walter Heck, an SS Sturmhauptführer who worked as a graphic designer for Ferdinand Hofstadter, a Bonn-based emblem and insignia manufacturer. Heck's device, which consisted of two Sig runes drawn side by side like lightning bolts, was quickly adopted by all branches of the SS. However, Heck only earned a paltry reward of 2.5 Reichsmarks for his efforts. The symbol had a double meaning. In addition to representing the SS's initials, it could be interpreted as a rallying cry of victory, victory. The sign grew so common that it was routinely typeset using runes rather than letters. During the Nazi period, an additional key was added to German typewriters so they could type the double Sig emblem with a single keystroke. Aside from the Sig runes, the SS used a range of additional esoteric symbols, many of which were based on the Armen runes, a mystical reworking of ancient runic alphabets created by occultist Guido von List. These symbols were chosen not merely for their historical or mythological value, but also for their capacity to instill a sense of exclusivity and ideological solidarity among SS members. The Eif rune is a mirrored and rotated variation of the Eichwatz rune. Rudolf Hess, one of Adolf Hitler's personal adjutants, utilized it in the early years of the SS. Meanwhile, the Gehr rune represented the SS's communitarian ideal. The rune was used as a version of the divisional symbol by the 11th SS Volunteer Panzergrenadier Division Nordland, a Waffen-SS unit. The Hagall Armen rune was frequently utilized in the SS as a symbol of unshakable faith in Nazi doctrine as Himmler defined it. It was used in SS weddings, as well as on the iconic SS Ehrenring or Death's Head ring worn by SS members. The rune was also used as the division symbol for the 6th SS Mountain Division Nord. Von List changed the Haglotz rune, which meant hail in the younger Futark, for his Armen runes. List considered it the mother rune of his runic alphabet, seeing it as a hexagonal crystal. Other Nazi runes. There were other symbols or runes that were repurposed from old Germanic symbols to represent the Nazi philosophy of racial superiority, aggressive nationalism, and unwavering commitment to Adolf Hitler. Another such important rune was the Tier, which was developed from the Taiwas rune and represented combat and military leadership. This emblem was widely used to identify the graves of SS officers, substituting the Christian cross and emphasizing the SS's rejection of traditional religious symbols in favor of their own mythologized warrior culture. The rune was also used as the insignia for SS officer training courses, representing the leadership skills demanded of the organization's top members. The Lebensrune, or life rune, was based on the Alges rune and was employed by the Lebensborn V, the SS entity in charge of the Lebensborn program, which promoted racially, biologically, and hereditarily valuable families of SS members and other Aryans. This interpretation of the man rune is not found on list, but it first appears in Germanic mysticism literature in the 1920s, and it became widely employed inside the NSDAP and Nazi Germany, for example in official prescriptions for the different outfits of the Sturmabteilung. The E rune became known as the life rune reversed and translated as the death rune. During World War II, the runes for born and for died were used in obituaries and tombstones to record birth and death dates, substituting the asterisk and cross symbols for born and died in Germany. The SS adopted the Odal rune to represent certain principles that are important to Nazi philosophy. It was based on the Elder Futark or Otala rune, with the addition of feet or serifs. It was utilized by the 7th SS Volunteer Mountain Division Prince Eugen and the 23rd SS Volunteer Panzer Grenadier Division Nederland during World War II, as well as the SS Rasse- und Sieglundschaftsamt, which was in charge of maintaining the SS's racial purity. The Opfer rune, a rotated variation of the Eiwatz rune, was originally used after 1918 by Der Stahlhelm, a war veterans association that later joined with the Sturmabteilung. The Nazis adopted the insignia after 1923 to honor the party members killed in Adolf Hitler's failed beer hall putsch. Some of these insignias are still utilized by neo-Nazi people and groups. SS Death's Head, or the Totenkopf emblem. A dead person's head. This is what the Germanic term Totenkopf means. Also associated with the idea of skull in German, it is commonly used to refer to a figurative, graphic, or sculptural emblem in Western culture. Totenkopf is widely linked with German military use in the 19th and 20th centuries, especially in Nazi Germany. In the early days of the Nazi Party, Julius Schreck, the chief of Adolf Hitler's bodyguard unit, reintroduced the Totenkopf as the unit symbol. This unit evolved into the Schutzstaffel, or SS, which has used the Totenkopf as an emblem throughout its existence. SS Totenkopfverband, Death's Head units in English, was the Schutzstaffel or SS organization in charge of overseeing Nazi concentration and extermination camps for Nazi Germany, among other functions. While the Totenkopf was the SS's universal cap emblem, the SSTV distinguished itself from other SS units by wearing this symbol on the right collar tab. Wolfsangel or Wolf's Hook. Wolfsangel, also known as Wolf's Hook, is a heraldic charge originating in Germany and eastern France. It was inspired by medieval European wolf traps that had a Z-shaped metal hook known as the Wolfsangel, which was suspended by a chain from a crescent-shaped metal bar. It was used as an emblem in the peasant revolts of 15th century, as well as the 30 Years' War in the 17th century. Thus, it became a symbol of German liberty and independence. The popularity of Hermann Löhn's 1910 novel Der Werwolf, which follows a hero during the 30 Years' War, rekindled interest in the Wolfsangel in pre-war Germany. The Nazi Party adopted the symbol, which was used by many German Wehrmacht and SS formations, including the Waffen-SS Division Das Reich and the Waffen-SS Division Landsturm Nederland. According to the Anti-Defamation League and other organizations, the symbol is associated with hatred and neo-Nazi ideology. Irminsul, or the Sacred Pillar Symbol. The Irminsul, an Old Saxon religious emblem, was reinterpreted and repurposed by the Nazi dictatorship in the early 1900s. Historically, the Irminsul was thought to be a holy pillar that connected heaven and earth, similar to the Germanic world tree. Charlemagne famously burned it during his Christian conquest of the Saxons in the 8th century. Wilhelm Tut, a former pastor and amateur archaeologist, revived the Irminsul as an important Germanic emblem in 1929. Tut, a member of the SS Sonnenrad, the Nazi Party's pseudo-scientific think tank, stated that a relief on the Externstein sandstone formations represented a fallen Irminsul. The Nazi elite, notably those in esoteric and Volkisch circles, adopted this interpretation, integrating the sign into SS Sonnenrad iconography and some Nazi propaganda works. While not as well known worldwide as the swastika, the Irminsul became a symbol of Nazi ideological mysticism. Today, it is still used in neo-Nazi and far-right groups. However, some people unintentionally use it in neo-pagan or artistic settings. Regardless of its current cultural spread, the Irminsul's Nazi-era connotations serve as a reminder of how history and mythology were weaponized for ideological ends. The Black Sun. The Black Sun is a form of sunwheel emblem that originated in Nazi Germany and was later adopted by neo-Nazis and other far-right people and organizations. The symbol's design consists of 12 radial sig runes, similar to the symbols used by the SS in their emblem. It initially debuted in Nazi Germany as a design element in a castle in Wewelsburg that was rebuilt and extended by the SS's leader Heinrich Himmler with the intention of serving as an SS headquarters. It is unclear whether the design had a name or any special meaning among the SS. The pseudonymous author Russell McLeod's 1991 German novel Die Schwarze Sonne von Tashi Lunpo, translated as The Black Sun of Tashi Lunpo, is responsible for its link with the occult. The book connects the Wewelsburg mosaic to the neo-Nazi notion of the Black Sun, created by former SS commander Wilhelm Landig as a replacement for the Nazi symbol. The Anti-Defamation League notes that while the symbol is popular among white supremacists, imagery resembling the Black Sun can be found in many cultures, and that such imagery should always be analyzed in the context in which it appears, as it may not be intended to represent white supremacy or racism. Celtic Cross. The Celtic cross, a kind of Christian cross with a nimbus or ring, originated in Ireland, France, and Great Britain in the early Middle Ages. It is a sort of ringed cross that became popular due to its usage in stone-high crosses constructed across the islands, particularly in areas evangelized by Irish priests between the 9th and 12th centuries. In most common form, it consists of a cross with a ring around the junction and is widely found on churches and gravestones throughout Europe. However, like many cultural emblems, it was appropriated by the Nazis and then by white nationalist forces. During Nazi Germany, the emblem was employed to promote concepts like neo-paganism and nationalism. The Nazis idolized Nordic and Celtic culture, mistakenly believing it was part of their Aryan ancestry. It became an emblem for parties seeking for a racially pure Europe, erasing the symbol's Christian significance. Following World War II, the Celtic cross became a symbol of far-right extremist groups, particularly neo-Nazi and white supremacist societies. It was employed by organizations such as the Ku Klux Klan and the Skinhead movement, frequently substituting the swastika in prohibited circumstances. Interestingly, not every Celtic cross is an extreme emblem. Many religious and cultural groupings continue to utilize it in its original peaceful form. The distinction is contextual. When utilized by hate organizations, it implies racism and exclusion. When employed in faith, it is still a hallowed Christian symbol. The number symbols. The Nazis and later neo-Nazi parties employed numbers as coded symbols to communicate their philosophy, allowing them to propagate their ideas in ways that may not be immediately obvious. These data are extremely important in extremist circles, and white supremacist groups continue to utilize them today. One of the most commonly used number codes is 18, which represents Adolf Hitler. This is due to the location of the letters in the alphabet, A, which is the first letter, and H, which is the 8th letter. Similarly, 88 stands for Heil Hitler, with H being the 8th letter of the alphabet. These digits occur in graffiti, tattoos, and internet forums as a discrete means to indicate Nazi affiliation. Another infamous number is 14, which comes from the 14 words coined by white supremacist David Lane. We must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children. This slogan has become a rallying cry for far-right groups. Frequently, 14 and 88 are joined into 1488, promoting both Nazi philosophy and white nationalist views. These numerals appear on clothes, dice, and social media accounts, acting as a subtle yet harmful symbol of hatred. While these numbers appear harmless, they have a terrible and tragic past, and understanding them is critical in countering extremist beliefs today. Iron Knuckle. In 1997, Wolfgang Froelich, a Holocaust denier and former Freedom Party district council member, claimed that Iron Knuckle was Adolf Hitler's favorite dish. Some Austrian restaurants began advertising the meal as a daily special on April 20th, Hitler's birthday. As a result, several neo-fascists have decided to commemorate Hitler's birthday by eating Iron Knuckle, while promoting the event on social media as simply gastronomic. These kinds of secret codes and emblems are common among neo-Nazi groups. Some of them are prohibited, others are not. Eiernochel with salad is not unlawful. On other days, it wouldn't be unusual to offer dough noodles with egg at many Austrian restaurants. But on this particular day of April 20th, the meal has a distinct symbolism. The Reichsadler, or German Imperial Eagle. The Reichsadler, or German Imperial Eagle, came down from a proto-heraldic emblem thought to have been used by Charlemagne, the first Frankish ruler coronated as the Holy Roman Emperor by the Pope in AD 800, and ultimately from the ancient Roman army's Aquila or eagle standard. Traditionally, it symbolized power, solidarity, and national pride. Under Nazi authority, it became an emblem of fascist philosophy. In 1935, the Nazi Party redesigned the Reichsadler by adding it atop a swastika surrounded in a wreath, resulting in the Hoheitszeichen, or national emblem of Nazi Germany. This variant became the official state emblem, appearing on government buildings, military uniforms, currency, and propaganda publications. The designs differed significantly between the Reichsadler, the state emblem facing right, and the Parteiadler, the party emblem facing left, but they both had the same purpose: to reinforce Nazi power and domination. The Reichsadler, once a national icon, became a symbol of dread as it flew over death camps, war flags, and official Nazi orders. It, like the swastika, was prohibited after World War II. Today, a modified form known as the Bundesadler, or Federal Eagle, represents the democratic German state, recovering the eagle from its Nazi history. However, the Nazi version is still a symbol of tyranny, and its usage is therefore prohibited in Germany and many other nations. The Bar Cross. The Balkenkreuz, which translates as beam cross or bar cross, is a straight-armed cross that was initially adopted between 1916 and 1918 and eventually became the emblem of the Wehrmacht, German armed forces, and its branches from 1935 to the conclusion of World War II. It was used by the Wehrmachtier, the Army, the Luftwaffe, the Air Force, and the Kriegsmarine, the Navy. The Balkenkreuz symbol is based on the Teutonic Order's cross. Germany's Luftstreitkräfte, the German Imperial Army's Army Air Service, initially formally adopted the Balkenkreuz in mid-April 1918, approximately a week before Manfred von Richthofen's death, and continued to use it until World War I concluded in November 1918. Its employment resumed with new standardized proportions with the formation of Nazi Germany's Air Force, the Luftwaffe, in 1935 as part of the new Wehrmacht, which united German armed forces in mid-March 1935. During the invasion of Poland, German armored fighting vehicles, or AFVs, employed a plain white cross, but prior to the start of Operation Weserübung, the Luftwaffe's black corps cross with white flanks had become the basic German AFV national emblem, which was used for the remainder of the war. The Luftwaffe had two styles: narrower white flanks on upper wing surfaces used in all 6 regular positions before July 1939, and wider white flanks surrounding the same width central black cross beneath the wings and on the fuselage sides of German military aircraft during World War II. Late in World War II, it became increasingly common to paint the Balkenkreuz national insignia without the black-colored corps cross, instead using only the quartet of right-angled flanks for its form to reduce its visibility. This could be done in either white or black, and with both the narrow and wide flank forms of the cross. The Iron Cross. The Iron Cross, abbreviated as EK, was a military decoration in the Kingdom of Prussia, then in the German Empire from 1871 to 1918, and finally in Nazi Germany from 1933 to 1945. The design, a black cross pate with a white or silver outline, is based on the medieval Teutonic Order symbol, which was worn by its knights beginning in the 13th century. In addition to being a military award, it has served as a symbol for the Prussian Army, the Imperial German Army, and the Reichswehr of the Weimar Republic, with the Wehrmacht using the Balkenkreuz or the Bar Cross form. The Iron Cross is currently the emblem of the Bundeswehr, Germany's contemporary military forces. The Iron Cross Award was founded by King Frederick William III of Prussia on March 17, 1813 during the Napoleonic Wars. The honor was backdated to his late wife, Queen Louise's birthday on March 10th, who was the first to receive it. The Iron Cross was also awarded in the Franco-Prussian War, World War I, and World War II. During World War II, the Nazis created their own version by superimposing a swastika on the medal. The Iron Cross was typically a military honor, although some were presented to civilians for military service, like Hannah Reitsch and Melita Schenk-Grafen von Stauffenberg, who were civilian test pilots during World War II. Because modern German law prohibits the manufacture and display of items bearing Nazi insignia, The West German government authorized replacement iron crosses in 1957 with a trifoliate oak leaf cluster in place of the swastika, similar to the iron crosses of 1813, 1870, and 1914, which could be worn by World War II Iron Cross recipients. The 1957 law also allowed for denazification of most other World War II decorations, with the exception of those specifically associated with Nazi Party organizations, such as SS Long Service medals, or with German Reich expansion, such as medals for the annexation of Austria, the Sudetenland, and the Memel region. Since the late 20th century, the sign has also been used in the outlaw motorcycle subculture and heavy metal fashion. Hammer and sword of the black front. The hammer and sword is a lesser-known emblem linked with Nazi philosophy, notably among followers of Strasserism, a section of the Nazi organization that supported a more radical and socialist-leaning version of National Socialism. This logo, a hammer crossed with a sword, represented the merger of worker solidarity with military power, which Strasserites thought would result in a nationalist revolution founded in both socialism and militarism. The hammer and sword was not a well-recognized Nazi emblem, but it was strongly linked with Otto and Gregor Strasser, two brothers who were early members of the Nazi Party but disagreed with Hitler on the course of National Socialism. Unlike Hitler's worldview, which was primarily influenced by businessmen and conventional conservatives, the Strasserites advocated for an anti-capitalist revolutionary strategy that aimed to unify workers and soldiers against both communism and capitalism. The hammer symbolized the working class, gaining influence from socialist and labor organizations. The sword, on the other hand, represented military might and the need for an armed revolution to accomplish their objectives. By combining these aspects, the Strasserites hoped to appeal to disillusioned workers and nationalist paramilitary organizations, thinking that only a militarized labor movement could bring Germany real independence and social justice. Though the hammer and sword was never officially adopted as the Nazi Party's insignia, it was frequently utilized by Strasserist groups and left-leaning Nazis in the late 1920s and early 1930s. Strasserite propaganda frequently used this insignia to stress the concept of a German socialism that opposed both Soviet-style communism and Western capitalism. However, Hitler saw the Strasserites as a challenge to his leadership and the Nazi Party's unity. Gregor Strasser fell out of favor with the party in 1930, and by 1932, his influence had substantially eroded. The Night of the Long Knives cemented the downfall of Strasserism. Gregor Strasser was executed on Hitler's orders, and Otto Strasser went into exile, completely dissolving their organization. After Hitler seized power, symbols linked with Strasserism, like the hammer and sword, were mostly removed from Nazi imagery. The dictatorship had no tolerance for ideological rivalry among its own members, and any Nazi emblem that did not support Hitler's vision was repressed. Today, the hammer and sword is a contentious and cryptic emblem recognized mostly by historians and radical organizations. Unlike the swastika, which is still widely known, the hammer and sword has faded into relative obscurity as a result of the Nazi regime's own efforts to eradicate Strasserism. However, certain neo-Nazi and far-right organizations, notably those proposing a third position between capitalism and communism, have sought to resurrect the hammer and sword as a symbol of nationalist and socialist values. It is occasionally seen in far-right circles, although its history with early Nazi factionalism makes it less recognized than other Nazi symbols. Broken Sun Cross. Symbols and markings in the shape of an equilateral cross contained in a circle have been used in the iconography of numerous civilizations since at least the Bronze Age. Since at least the 1930s, a variant with broken arms, resembling a swastika, has had strong far-right overtones due to its adoption by the German faith movement and later as unit insignia for two Waffen-SS divisions. The Sun Cross, or Sun Wheel, dates back to human antiquity, with versions linked with a variety of historical societies ranging from Scandinavia to India. During the early 20th century, the Tool Society, whose philosophy influenced Nazism, chose a broken sun cross as their emblem, inspired by the symbol's purported link to the German people's pre-Christian Aryan origins. The Tool Society and German faith movement utilize a different version from the Waffen-SS, which has an encircling circle. Versions linked with neo-Nazism nowadays are mostly based on the Waffen-SS design. Because of its visual similarities and ideological undertones, the broken sun cross design is sometimes mistaken for a version of the swastika rather than a unique symbol. Triskelion. A triskelion, also known as a triskeles, is an ancient design made up of either a triple spiral with rotational symmetry or various triplicate patterns emanating from a common core. The spiral design might be based on interlocking Archimedean spirals or three bent human limbs. It may be found in objects from the Neolithic and Bronze Ages in Europe, as well as the Iron Age, particularly in the context of the Latene civilization and related Celtic traditions. The genuine triskeles emblem of three human legs may be found specifically in Greek history, beginning with archaic pottery and continuing through classical currency. The triskeles was used in the design of the Army Gold Medal, which was presented to British Army majors and above who played an important role in the Battle of Maida. An early Sicilian flag, suggested in 1848, featured the Sicilian triskeles, often known as the trinacria symbol. The Isle of Man flag has a heraldic design of a triskele with three armored legs. Like many powerful symbols, the Nazis hijacked this historic European symbol and transformed its meaning. Following World War II, the triskele became an important hate symbol, thanks in great part to its employment by the Afrikaner Weerstandsbeweging, or AWB, a South African white supremacist group founded in the 1970s. The AWB used a banner similar to the Nazi flag, but with a triskele in the shape of three interlocking sevens instead of a swastika. Because of its AWB use, the 3 sevens variant of the triskele is most generally connected with white supremacy. It is a frequent style of white nationalist tattoo and may be found on the emblem of the racist skinhead group Blood and Honor. Atomwaffen symbol. Atomwaffen is the German term for atomic weapons, and the Atomwaffen emblem consists of a Waffen-SS divisional insignia shield with a trefoil, the traditional symbol used to warn of ionizing radiation. The shield is often, but not always, encircled by a garland, which is a typical garnish on many white nationalist designs. The Atomwaffen flag has the shield and wreath in the middle of a black background, with 4 yellow rays extending from the shield/garland to each flag corner. Interestingly, the symbol was used for the Atomwaffen Division, a neo-Nazi organization founded in 2016 by members of Iron March. It was one of numerous new neo-Nazi organizations that emerged in tandem with the post-2015 expansion of the alt-right portion of the white supremacist movement. Atomwaffen differentiates itself via its radical vocabulary, which was influenced by the writings of James Mason, an older generation neo-Nazi who adored Charles Manson and advocated the concept of lone wolf aggression. Atomwaffen members have already been implicated in multiple murders during the group's brief lifespan. Aryan Fist or the White Fist. The upright clenched fist has long served as a symbol both artistically and as a hand gesture of resistance, solidarity, and strength. In the 1960s and 1970s, black nationalist movements in the United States and worldwide frequently employed a dark-skinned clenched fist gesture or picture as a black power emblem. By the 1980s, white nationalists in the United States and worldwide had adopted this sign, replacing a white fist. White nationalists commonly argue that the sign represents white pride or white power. Though not an official Nazi emblem during Hitler's reign, it has come to represent white nationalism and racial supremacy, representing the Third Reich's brutal philosophy. The Third Reich preached Aryan supremacy, striving for a racially pure society via propaganda, legislation, and eventually extermination. Although the Nazis did not formally employ a clenched fist as a sign, their philosophy set the groundwork for succeeding white supremacist groups to adopt similar images. The Aryan fist arose as a modern symbol of this philosophy, carrying on the Nazis' racist and nationalist goals. Unlike other symbols that have been misconstrued throughout time, the Aryan fist is inextricably linked to hatred and extremism. It does not have a similar benign significance to the Hindu swastika. Instead, it represents violence, white supremacy, and oppression. It is frequently used in conjunction with demands for racial segregation, hate crimes, and the promotion of Nazi ideology. Fasces. Fasces is a bundle of wooden rods that typically, but not always, include protruding axe blades. The fasces is an Italian emblem that originated in the Etruscan culture and was carried down to ancient Rome, where it represented a Roman king's ability to punish his citizens. During the early part of the 20th century, both the fasces and the swastika were closely associated with the fascist political movements of Benito Mussolini in Italy and Adolf Hitler in Germany. The movements converged first in the form of Hitler's fascination with Mussolini's March on Rome of 1922. Later, the Berlin-Rome axis formed the sinews of the Axis power in World War II. Axis and the axe and fasces have a common rhyme. Crossed grenade emblem. The crossed grenade insignia represents the Waffen-SS unit known as the Dirlewanger Brigade, after its leader, which subsequently became the 36th SS Division. Oskar Dirlewanger was an SS officer active in the Holocaust and anti-partisan efforts during World War II, particularly the brutal suppression of the Polish Home Army's 1944 insurrection in Warsaw. Even inside the Waffen-SS, Dirlewanger and his battalion were known for sadism, brutality, and crimes. As a result, current neo-Nazis revered Dirlewanger as a hero, and a white power music band was named after him. Spear of Phineas. The Spears of Phineas, tied to the Spear of Destiny, is a relic thought to contain heavenly power. It originated with Phineas, a Jewish prophet, and was later used by biblical figures such as Joshua and King Saul, as well as famously by Gaius Cassius to puncture Jesus Christ at the crucifixion. It went through the hands of many emperors, such as Constantine, Charlemagne, and others over the years, with each believing it guaranteed victory, but resulted in death if lost. According to legend, Barbarossa, the legendary German ruler, passed away immediately after losing the spear in a river, fueling the myth that whomever held it was invincible but would perish if they lost it. By the 20th century, Hitler and Himmler had become infatuated with the spear, believing that it might secure Nazi rule. Hitler, who was captivated with mysticism and Germanic history, is said to have spent hours looking at the spear in Vienna's Hofburg Museum. When Germany conquered Austria in 1938, the Nazis grabbed the spear, believing it would assure their global triumph. Himmler, the chief of the SS and the architect of the Holocaust, used the spear in his esoteric rites. He constructed Schloss Wievelberg as the SS headquarters, hoping to utilize its strength for Nazi purposes. The Allies retrieved it 6 hours after Hitler's death, adding to its legend of claiming the lives of the ones who dared to possess it.